Greetings. I'm John Altaw, President and Chief Mission Officer of the Dakota County Regional Chamber of Commerce, and welcome to the Farmington Mayor Candidate Forum. Thank you to the candidates for attending tonight. We'd also like to thank the City of Farmington for allowing us to use their facilities and for their willingness to record and broadcast this event. And thanks also to our timers, Mark and Nate. The Dakota County Regional Chamber of Commerce is a 66-year-old chamber organization that serves 9 cities, including Farmington, and 3 townships while representing 50% of the Dakota County residents. The DCR prides itself in driving business and communities forward through the power to connect. We're the voice of business, and we work to develop vibrant communities through programming like this candidate forum. Sponsorship of this forum is a public service providing you with an opportunity to hear the candidates discuss important issues face to face. The views expressed here are those of the candidates and not necessarily those of the Dakota County Regional Chamber of Commerce. Sponsorship of this forum is not an endorsement by the Chamber of any particular candidate. The DCR Chamber does not endorse candidates. That's your job as voters. We will start the candidate forum with opening statements. Each candidate will then have 2 minutes for their opening statement and 2 minutes for a closing statement. Opening statements were determined by coin toss. We'll beginning with Joshua Hoyt and then proceeding to Paul Larson. Closing statements will be in the reverse order. The order of answering questions will be randomly determined. Candidates will have 90 seconds to respond to the questions. We ask the candidates to respect these time limits. That's why we have 2 timers. Our timekeeper has a yellow 15-second sign alerting you that you have 15 seconds to complete your response. There's also the red sign that indicates you should conclude your sentence so that we can move on to the next candidate. Many of the questions for this evening were submitted by the Chamber to the Chamber by email. They were reviewed by Committee of DCR Public Affairs Committee members and edited for clarity. In addition, the committee developed some questions based on topics of interest they identified from the community. Based on time constraints, we are not able to ask all the questions that were submitted. The forum will conclude in about an hour. So let's begin with the opening statements. The order for opening statements will be Joshua Hoyt, followed by Paul Larson. Candidates?
Thank you, John. First, I want to say thank you to the Dakota County Regional Chamber of Commerce for continuing to be a steadfast organization for all things business and community across Dakota County. I also want to say thank you to my wife and my kids for the last 6 years. There are countless hours that are spent representing your community across numerous events, all the city obligations, actively promoting the city of Farmington, not only in the region but across the state. And every time we do that, it's away from your family. And so I want to start with that. Thank you to my peers on the council and also our team at the city of Farmington. Over the last 6 years, we have made some incredible accomplishments, and we have put in tireless efforts to start moving our community in a direction that positively impacts both our residents and our businesses. I want to say thank you to Paul. Paul raised his hand and stepped forward. There's a lot more that goes into that than what most people realize. And in a time where everyone has an opinion or something to say, so few decide to raise their hand and step forward. So thank you for doing so. When I started 6 years ago, I asked the community to support me in the direction that I wanted to help take with the council. Little did I know that 14, 15 months later, we'd be dealing with COVID and civil unrest. And since then, it has been a nonstop plan of action to move the community forward. Farmington has it very difficult. We are an outer ring suburb. We have unique needs within our community, and things don't come easy here. We work tirelessly, and we don't quit. And I will continue to work on behalf of the residents and the businesses of the city of Farmington if the residents choose me again this year. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Paul Larson. I'm honored to be here as a candidate for mayor. I'm running because I believe the power of community-driven leadership, and I have a vision for making the city a better place for all. With over 20 years of experience in leadership, business management, and process improvement, I've gained an understanding of challenges that we face and the opportunities ahead. My priorities include enhancing our local economy, improving public safety, transparency, and ensuring that every voice is heard in our city's decision-making processes. Together, we create a vibrant, inclusive, and prosperous future for all residents. I'm excited to share my plans with you and discuss how we can work together to achieve those goals. I thank you for your time, and I thank the mayor for all of his years of service in being part of the city council and as mayor as well. I wish you luck in this candidacy. I look forward to seeing where this brings us all and the future of our fantastic community. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. So now let's proceed to the questions. And the response order for the first question is Paul Larson, followed by Joshua Hoyt. And the first question is, if you had to describe Farmington to someone visiting from another country who had never been here before, what would you say?
It's a great question. We actually have an exchange student in our neighborhood right now. So I'm actually engaging with this experience as we have this conversation. How I would explain our community is we're very down to earth. We're a very community-driven community, meaning that we're very engaged with one another. We're always worried about what's going on with our neighbors. And when we talk about our neighbors, I'm literally talking about the people next to us and across the street. We're worried about the people, making sure that they have the right resources in place and that they're being taken care of. We always go out of our way to help one another. This community alone has not only been my birthplace, but it is the place I call home after all of the last 8 years since the community developed my neighborhood, actually. I would also say the bigger thing to know about Farmington is there's not a single stranger. Everybody feels like they're your neighbor. May not know them right away. 5 minutes, we're gonna be best friends. And that's kind of how it felt ever since I moved here. I've been a part of this community on and off all the last couple of years with my grandparents. My mother lives in town again. I'm familiar with all the local business owners. And knowing that you're a part of that and they truly do feel like your neighbors, it's the best place to be.
Thank you.
During our boards and commission interviews, one of my peers always asks the question, if you could describe Farmington in one word, what would that word be? And every time this question comes up, the word that comes to mind is opportunity. Farmington is a community, 150 plus years old, where you can come in and feel like you know everyone and have that small town charm, but also have the opportunity of larger communities. We are a growing community. We are a ever-evolving and more diverse community than we were even a few years ago. This is a community where our residents stop to pick up trash in the streets. When a neighbor needs something, we answer the call. When a business needs to be supported, the residents rally in support of that business. We saw that through COVID. It's what makes Farmington both unique and extremely special. As I travel across the South Metro, specifically Dakota County, there's a lot of great things about other cities, but that defining characteristic that we have is what makes Farmington unique. I couldn't imagine calling any other city home besides Farmington.
Thank you. The response order for the second question is Joshua Hoyt, followed by Paul Larson. And the second question is, as mayor, where do or would you go for input before making major decisions?
It's a great question. There's a lot of context there too, because major decisions can be interpreted by the effect of that decision. First and foremost, as mayor, you lean into your peers and you lean into the leadership team here at the City of Farmington. They are the hired professionals. They are the ones that have the tenure and the experience. We have hired them and set priorities for them to deliver results. if we as an elected body don't first lean into and listen to our hired team, it's going to be a very rough road traveled. You have to listen to your peers. Depending on the complexity of the situation, there's any number of ways that you can do research. That involves seeking out subject matter experts, involving those affected with the decision. There's just so many different ways that you can go on major decision making, but at the end of the day, you have to have the courage to make the decision. And you have to do it with the information that you have at the time, and you have to make the most educated decision that you can based on the information that you have, and recognize that that can change.
The response order for the third question is Paul Larson, followed by Joshua Hoyt. And the third question is,
John, I don't mean to interrupt. He
sorry?
didn't answer
Chance to
question
answer the
two.
question.
oh, did I skip on you?
Yep.
I'm sorry
He gets
about that.
question
Air right off
I
the
would like
box.
to answer the question if I can.
Go for it. Go for
right.
it. Thank you. Where do you go before making the major decision? Thank you.
For me, as Mayor Hoyt had pointed out, we have to rely on our city administration. We have to understand where information is coming from, where are they looking at, where the guiding principles are. Additional insights to that is doing research. And when we look at research, we need to be looking at similar communities as ours and see impact of those decision making. We also have to look at where the source of this is going to go. What are we doing with this decision? So is it going to benefit us in the short term, or is it going to benefit us in the long term? And I look at those aspects and I look at the pros and cons and I run the risk analysis. And when I look at the risk analysis, I'm looking at doing my own research, but I'm also looking at the impacts to the community. I want to hear the community's input as well. The decisions are never going to be easy, and they're not going to be perfect 100% of the time. That is something that I think everybody can openly admit. There is no perfect solution to everything, but there is solutions in place. And we just have to pull the right levers to figure that out. And knowing what levers I can look at, knowing what opportunities are there, and being able to do a comparison across the board.
Good. Now we'll go to the third question. And the order is Paul Larson, you'll get to speak again, followed by Joshua Hoyt. The third question is, do you support the rezoning for the Farmington Technology Park data center use? Why or why not?
I knew this question would come up. To answer this, I will publicly say I don't support the rezoning of the golf course to support a data center. But if we are talking about a technology park by definition is a conglomerate area of different proprietary technology consumers who will come together and make innovative solutions and ideas. A data center is not a technology park. It is solely a data center. I do not support the data center going into the golf course. If that's the question at hand, I understand that. And the reason why I don't is because it's between two residential zones that roughly are about between 120 to 150 potential residents. It's a very large amount of impacted infrastructure. There is concerns about the wildlife. There is bald eagles in our area in that specific zone. I've recently seen 4 alone. We don't know where their nests are. We don't know where they're going to hunt. That's a concern. We have to be conservative of those things. One of the things that I would say about it, other than that, I do support data centers, but not necessarily where that is being rezoned today.
Do I support the rezoning for the Farmington Technology Parks data center use? Why or why not? Yes. I support the rezoning for the golf course location and what's formerly known as the School District Angus property for a number of reasons. Number one, it is ideally located for infrastructure that will not be carried as a burden on the taxpayers of the municipal city of Farmington. The argument continues to come up that this project does not belong between two residential areas. What's not being said is that one of those residential areas is currently abutted by, on three sides, Executive Estates, is abutted on the northwest and south sides to currently commercial industrial zone property, all of which, or the majority of which, was there when the homes were built, starting in roughly 2005. Air Lake Truck Body and Paint was built in 2021 in that same Farmington East Industrial Park. We as a city council have a responsibility to vet a process to make sure that all of the necessary benchmarks are met for mitigation, noise control, water consumption, et cetera. We will continue to engage every single entity as required by state law to ensure that there is a good balance.
The response for the fourth question is Joshua Hoyt, followed by Paul Larson. And the fourth question is, Farmington is a community of lots of green space and housing and not much commercial space. Many residents want more places to shop, dine out, etc. What can and should the city do, if anything, to encourage businesses to move to Farmington?
It's a great question, but unfortunately it should be broken into two questions because they don't directly correlate each other. And I'm going to address the first part of it. We do have a lot of green space, or what appears to be available land. And I addressed this in my State of the City. In the 2040 Comprehensive Plan, of the 45% land that is currently undeveloped, only 5% of it is guided as future commercial industrial. There's many contributing factors such as ag preserve, green acres. There's other regulatory controls in place that will not allow any development to occur for even as little as 8 years. I committed 4 years ago to engage our landowners, have the conversations, talk about their legacies to better understand how they wanted their land guided. Because at the end of the day, it's their land. It's not the city of Farmington's, and it's not its residents. It belongs to the landowners. We have to be effective collaborators to work with them to understand how they want their legacy to look in the several years and decades to come. The city council will continue to look at the comprehensive plan and find ways to not miss opportunities, Flagstaff being one of them. If we could look back 20 years and further zone out Pilot Knob with larger setbacks and create more commercial space, we would be reaping the benefit of that, and we would draw more businesses here. We can't make that same mistake with Flagstaff, hence one of the reasons that we're going through the mid-tier or the midterm comprehensive plan update. Thank you.
It's a very lengthy question, and to answer that, I think we're very clear that a lot of the green space is owned by farmers. It's how do we make those connections, how do we build those relationships and understand their future plans. Knowing that they do have legacy farmers here. We have a very large populace. I mean, our town is literally called Farmington. It's literally in the name. We're not here to grow into being a big metropolitan area overnight. That's not going to happen. It doesn't matter who's in the seat. The reality is to give people more places to shop and dine, it's making those connections and utilizing our networks and making connections through our small business units, our small businesses, and their connections as well. Looking in and doing RFPs to get connections to those people and understand where opportunity is, understand where some of the hesitancy might be from some of those industries that want to come here. I often hear, I would love a Jimmy John's. Well, why do you want a Jimmy John's? Have you talked to a Jimmy John's? Have you thought about franchising a Jimmy John's? These are the things that we need to be asking ourselves as citizens. It's not all relying on just the city council. It relies on everybody.
The response order for the fifth question is Paul Larson and then Joshua Hoyt. And the fifth question, somewhat related to the last, what is your position on growth and the pace of growth for the city of Farmington? Should the pace be increased or slowed down? Explain your answer.
It's a good question. I think a lot of people want to see the town explode. like I mentioned in my previous comment, we want to grow overnight. The reality is that's not going to be feasible. Could it be increased? Yeah, we could probably move a little bit faster than what we are. I often look at the way my mom says the town used to have 4 grocery stores. It used to have 3 different butcher shops. Reality at the end of the day is the town rolled up one night and it didn't unroll the roads. That's what she says all the time. I often have to remind her, you're senile and you need to stop talking right now. As much as I love my mother, I will say I think we could increase it, but we also have to be realistic about the speed we're going. If we don't have the space today, if it is an actual wait 8 years to get some of these land pieces to be available for building, you're not going to get the big buildings you want. You're not going to get potentially the businesses you want. We have to be realistic with what we have available today. And notably, we have a lot of open spaces in the mall right now. We've got another open space over in the strip mall over by Blue Nose right now. There's opportunity if you just looked at it. It's just finding the right person. Thank you.
What's your position on growth and the pace of growth? In 2018, I would have answered this differently, and I would have said that it needed to increase substantially. Post-COVID, I believe that we have taken a very active approach in ensuring that we increase the velocity of our growth. Frankly, because the residents and the business owners of this community cannot afford the burden that is placed on them via taxes. Cost of goods is rising. Workforce needs are changing every day. We don't have enough employees. They don't make enough money. So we do need to increase our efforts on the commercial side. However, as I stated in a previous answer, we are confined by land availability. At the end of the day, if a landowner doesn't want to sell, it doesn't matter who's knocking on the door. It can be Jimmy John's, or it could be Hy-Vee, or it could be Target. It doesn't matter. It takes a willing seller to allow that transaction to take place. We can control the things like residential. Our employers are saying we need workforce. Farmington's median home value is $345,000. You're not going to work for $18 to $25 an hour and live in the city of Farmington. You're going to have to live elsewhere. So we started right-sizing our housing market. Apartment buildings, market rate apartment condos, townhomes, 272 of them. We've put a lot of time and effort into diversifying our housing mix to ensure that we are indirectly supporting our businesses so that we don't lose them with all of the other constraints that exist in the market.
The response order for the 6th question is Joshua Hoyt and then Paul Larson. And the 6th question is to candidate Hoyt. What is your proudest significant achievement accomplished while in office? And to candidate Larson, what is the first major thing you will do or attempt to change if elected to office?
Wow, that's a really good question.
Thank you.
I understand the role of mayor, and I understand that you have to be the voice, you have to be the face, you have to be the one that's out in front of all of the things, good and bad. But I'm actually a pretty quiet guy. I don't like awards, I don't like notoriety, I don't like it. The most significant accomplishment didn't actually happen as mayor, it happened as a council member. And it was March 17th on Sunday when Governor Walz put the stay-in-place order in. 96 hours later, this community had a food drive at Faith United Methodist Church that delivered 20,000 pounds of food to the community. We answered the first question about what makes Farmington unique. I saw the best of Farmington that day. It was pouring rain. People were pulling resources, trucks. It was unbelievable to watch this thing in a time of uncertainty come together with little to no planning. It was literally, we need this, show up. We need this, show up. And people showed up, and we stood out there for hours in the rain serving our residents. It was over 20,000 pounds of food, 600 plus families served. Hands down, that is my proudest moment as an elected official, but more importantly, as a resident of this great community.
One of the first major things I will do or attempt to change if elected office, I like the bold question. I think the big thing for me is to understand what is on our list. We have to have a laundry list somewhere. Everybody has a laundry list. You can't doubt that. You can't question that. Everybody has one. There's a backlog of questions on what's on that laundry list, right? First and foremost is prioritizing that for me. I need to understand where are we completely at this exact second in prioritization of what was already done. What's on that laundry list? What are we trying to accomplish? I want to know what everybody has a passion for and wants to see. The thing is that we can't just magically click our heels and have something available tomorrow. I understand there's a desire for a pool again. I understand why we closed down said pool as well. I understand that people want another sheet of ice put on our lovely arena. Can't guarantee that's going to happen first day out the door, right? But what I can guarantee is I'm going to show up. I'm going to put in my A+ effort. I'm going to do my due diligence. I'm going to listen, and I'm going to look at everything that's already here in place and on that laundry list. So I'm not duplicating prior efforts, and I'm going to applaud the people that came before me.
The response order for the seventh question is Paul Larson, followed by Joshua Hoyt. And the seventh question is, District 192 Superintendent reports that there are 25 languages spoken at Farmington High School. As Farmington grows and becomes more diverse, how do you plan to integrate people with different backgrounds into the Farmington community?
I think the big thing that I've learned in working in government programs through my years of experience is the first thing is that it's community. It's not our community necessarily, it's the other communities that exist in our community. You may not notice it, but the Laotian community is very strong in St. Paul. The Somalian community is very strong in southern Minnesota. That diversity, as it continues to grow and thrive, those communities are communicating with each other. It's making sure that we're looking at the diversity and connecting with those communities and having conversations with those community leaders. You may not realize that there's community leaders. FYI, there's community leaders in all of those smaller communities. And it's talking to them and understanding on their level and respecting their culture. That's what's going to bring in some more of that diversity. That's where we're going to be connecting and bringing and setting up events for those communities. Inclusiveness comes from being a part of their culture. If you want to bring their culture in, you need to bring in opportunities for them to express that culture as well. Thank you.
This leads back into one of the questions about major decisions, right? We have to first look at all of the touch points that our residents have within the community, their interactions with City Hall, police, fire, park and rec, streets and maintenance. We have to look at how different languages are spoken and how people communicate on its most basic level. Based on our current diversity and the number of languages that are out, that are currently being spoken at the high school, I believe that we can learn a lot from the high school and other communities that have gone through similar transitions. That could look as simple as having more resources available for our teams at police, fire, parks and rec, making sure that when those calls go out, when our team has a touch point with a resident that English isn't their first language, that we're able to communicate quickly, efficiently, and effectively. It could be through the use of translators. Park and Rec, we have to look at our programming and ensure that the programs that are offered through Park and Rec are culturally diverse. They're not just geared on white American programming. We'll continue to partner with other organizations throughout the community, nonprofits, and our religious community to make sure that we can work with them and the residents who are attending their functions to ensure that we meet people where they're at.
And the response order for the 8th question is Paul Larson, followed by Joshua Hoyt. As the city of Farmington grows, how can the hometown feel of the city be maintained, and is that important?
It's a great question. How can the hometown feel of the city be maintained as we grow? I think a lot of it is honoring where we came from. We have a lot of historical buildings downtown. We need to do our due diligence to preserve them. We look at grants, look at funding from federal government aid that can help us continue to maintain that. But more importantly, the spirit of our hometown, the spirit of Farmington. And I say that because as a kid, I'd come here and I would remember going to due days. We used to have hot dog stands on the corners. We used to be able to get Mountain Dew, Pepsi. It was exciting. And I used to do that with my siblings. We have to remember the feel of Farmington isn't just about being a community, it's also about being a family. And how do we make that family friendly? And I think that's extremely important. When we look at how people that still live downtown, just a few blocks over in those beautiful houses that have been preserved through the years, some of them still need some reservation. And so I think a lot of it has to do with what can we do through government aid, government funding to keep preserving our downtown. Remember where we came from, but also remember that in the spirit of Farmington, being a good neighbor, being with each other and family. Those are the key things. Thank you.
Hometown is what we make of it. It starts with engagement, and that's not as an elected official. It's not just as an employer and employee within the community. This community has a plethora of opportunities to be involved. Religious, nonprofit, sports, school, city, there are a ton of opportunities for people to be involved. As our lives change and things get busier and our priorities have different alignment that they did at earlier stages in our life, it's a conscious decision to say Farmington is a place that I care about. It's a community that I want my family to grow up in, and it's a place that I want to call home. And that means something different to everybody. Whether you were born and raised here, you're a transplant here, or you are considering moving here or starting your business here, Farmington just hits differently. And as long as we can continue to engage with each other, we can continue to talk about what's great and what unites us, not what divides us, we will hold on to that hometown, small town charm. We will have that. But the minute we don't make it a priority, we'll lose it. And that's not on one person or one group or one entity. That is on the community, and that is a responsibility that we have to our fellow residents. Thank you.
The response order for the 9th question is Joshua Hoyt, followed by Paul Larson. And the 9th question is, education is considered by many, it's critical to city growth and development, but manageable tax levels are also important. Do you support the upcoming District 192 bonding vote? Why or why not?
Yes, I do. District 192 is our #1 employer. There are over 1,000 employees in the district. The thing that gets missed the most is that school districts cannot operate without an operating levy. There are very few in the state that can do it without an operating levy. What our district is asking is for us to, as residents, replace the existing levy that's in place and allow them to continue to fund sufficient programming across the district. There are a lot of unfunded programs that have come down from the state. That gap has to be filled, unfortunately, right now on the backs of our businesses and our residents. I wouldn't support it if we didn't have projects like the data center, amongst others, coming. Those are generational changes. Those are tens of millions of dollars annually that will solve problems that the state of Minnesota has created for District 192, amongst other things. Let's talk about the levy not passing. The school district has said that it will affect a number of programs. That goes against everything that we've been talking about. The hometown feel, the language barriers, the sense of belonging. You're talking about unemployment of many of our educators, a loss of essential programming that the state says is needed, but the district financially cannot support. I would say yes, 1,000 times over.
This is a tough question, I know, for a lot of people because we keep talking about taxation and levies. When it comes to the District 192 bonding vote, I'm going to clearly say yes. I support it. And the reason why is because I have a 6-year-old daughter who's going to grow up in this school system, and she's going to do amazing things. And because she had such a fantastic experience in this community's diverse school district, it's you just have to look at the bigger picture. We have programs that are highly sought after. We've got people who come to watch our musicals that we put out or our plays. They aren't shrugged off as something that just only Farmington goes to. FYI, I have a lot of friends that come over here from Lakeville, who come down from Inver Grove Heights, who come down to continue to support the arts, the music, and our football. Like, we have people who are interested in our sports. And that's a big deal. We need to be looking at some of those programs could be sliced and diced without having the proper funding for this levy. I had my neighbor told me the other day, the reason why they picked moving here 3 years ago is because the school district could do something their school district couldn't do, which is allowing their kids to learn via remotely and do it in a way that was efficient and effective. And that's why we need to say yes. Thank you.
And this would normally bring us to closing statements. But as moderator, I have the ability to call an audible, and I'm going to do that. Because both of the candidates have been very efficient with their answers, very engaged, and very professional in how they've responded to the answers. So that allows me time to ask one additional question. This is a vision question. And I would like to know, and we're alternating, so this would mean this goes to Paul Larson first and then to Joshua Hoyt. I'd like to know, I would like you to describe for me what Farmington looks like 25 years from now. How do you see the city of Farmington looking, acting, behaving, being 25 years in the future?
Wow. 25 years in the future, that's a big step here. Okay. I will say we will probably have a different look and feel in the sense of downtown will still have some of its buildings preserved. As we get out of downtown and we start to head out towards Pilot Knob and we start to look at the Greenway, I think you're going to see less and less of that. I think you're going to see a legacy being built out on 50 there. And I'm saying that because we have some wonderful developments going in with the apartment complex. There was at one point an opportunity for a shopping area to be developed there. We'd love to see that happen. And I say we as in like the community wants to see something like that. It would be really great. And I'd support that. I think as we continue to look out past that, you're going to still see some of those legacy farmers here. Will they be as close to Pilot Knob and downtown or Flagstaff as they used to be? Probably not. They'll probably be more what I would say the future of farming, where you probably see a little bit more of hydroponics being brought in. Now we're starting to see a little shift in how we continue to stay sustainable and green at the same time. And when I say green, I mean literally dedicated farming spaces where hydroponics are being used. Thank you.
25 years from now, it's hard to imagine Farmington without farms and agriculture. It's just hard to even think about. Logistically, yes, you can see it. But what makes us so unique in that hometown is the agricultural component of our community. How that looks, to be defined, and the private market will determine that over the decades to come. But I hope it looks a lot like it does today. A very diverse mix of different types of residential, different types of commercial, transportation, high-level tech, leveraging the assets that we have with our fiber and our power and our water. But most importantly, getting the workforce increased in the city of Farmington to a level that sustains all of the wants that the community needs. We want grocery, we want retail, we want places to spend our money. But you have to have employers that have workforce here in the community. Otherwise, we'll continue to have the problem that we currently have, and that's workers leaving the community and doing their business elsewhere. The smart people will figure out what that number is, but we have to get that better balance than the 67% that it is today. We have far too many jobs that outflow to this community. I would love to see that move in our favor much sooner than 25 years, though.
Thank you for your indulgence of the moderator. That does bring us now to closing statements. Candidates will have 2 minutes. The response order is Paul Larson, followed by Joshua Hoyt.
I want to thank everybody for their time and engagement today. As we look towards the future, I want to reiterate my commitment to transparent and effective leadership. My experience combined with my dedication to community service equips me with the ability to tackle our city's challenges ahead and build on its strengths. I'm eager to work collaboratively with each of you to address our priorities and create a thriving environment for our families, businesses, and our future generations. I ask for your support and your vote so you can turn our shared vision into reality, because together we can make a difference. Thank you.
I've had a great 6 years. I've enjoyed every aspect of serving the residents and the businesses of this community. I've served amongst a few different compositions within the council and very different looking leadership teams at the city of Farmington. Make no mistake, this job is not for the faint of heart. This is not for fluffy and good feelings. This is about getting things done. And this community and its residents and its businesses have carried the burden of ineffective planning and imbalance within our tax base for far too long. In order for us to fix the problems, we have to make some really hard decisions. They're not going to be popular. They're certainly not going to be worthy of putting on banners or getting awards for, but they are essential to ensure that this community has the financial resources to do all of the things that people want. Within the chamber, it's often said, we want a good community for people to live, work, and play. Well, we don't have a lot of people that work here. We have a lot of people that live here, and we have a lot of people that want to play here. It comes at a cost, and that has to change. We have dramatically changed our housing mix to better support our businesses through lower income options and market rate options. We supported our businesses through COVID, over $500,000 in small business grants, backed by Dakota County. Over 100 businesses were supported. We got lenient with local ordinances for outside operations. We refunded liquor licenses. We continued to pivot. But there's often, 15 seconds, let's go. Paul, I wish you the best of luck. I hope you know what you're signing up for. This is not for the faint of heart. I love this community far too much, and I will continue to show up every single day the way that I have for 6 years, and that's my commitment to the city of Farmington.
The Dakota County Regional Chamber of Commerce would like to thank everyone for participating in our forum, the city of Farmington for their services in this wonderful public space. We especially want to thank our candidates for taking the time tonight to be with us and to be a part of the democratic process by running for office and showing up so people can hear where you stand. And just your overall willingness to serve our community. The DCR Chamber of Commerce is a regional chamber with the power to connect. We strive to drive business and communities that we serve forward. If you're interested in finding more out about what we do and how we make a difference, please visit dcrchamber.com. So it's hard to believe today, long time coming, has come to an end. I was very excited this morning when I got up this morning, got to put on my Farmington orange tie because I knew what that meant, that the mayor debate or candidate forum was going to happen. But I want to thank everyone for viewing this, and a reminder to vote on or before November 5th. It's your civic duty. Please schedule your mammogram appointments too, because October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. So just want to let you know and remind you, early detection saves lives. So with that, we'll close. Get out and vote. Thank you.